the bottom line. You want a war? You're gonna get one.
The cream rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
And we are back for another week of the bottom line. We are missing Chad tonight. Chad's under the weather, so we wish him a speedy recovery. I just think it was because he was starting to fall behind on his picks.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say missing, but he's not with us tonight.
He still doesn't get a break. He still has to submit the picks, so that's irrelevant. But he's having some voice issues, and I said, well, not you being not able to talk is going to be just fine anyway. So you can still come on, just put your face on the screen, right?
That's right.
Hey, Henry, thanks for joining. It wouldn't surprise me if Chad's flapping his gums on the comment line tonight. I can about
He's going to be commenting all night long.
He
Oh no, he sounded pretty rough Monday when I talked to him.
Yeah.
Told him he might need to check himself in somewhere.
Well, first things first, we had talked about the last show towards the end how we were going to come up with a holiday schedule. And since Christmas and New Year's are both on a Wednesday, it doesn't work very well with a significant other if we do a show on either one of those days. So we got a little ticker going at the bottom. We're going to, the next 2 weeks after tonight, our shows will be on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. We'll do that both on December 28th and then again on January 4th. So
talk about bad timing, just rough. Christmas and New Year's, both Wednesdays. That's tough to work around. Family travel for Christmas, all that kind of stuff. But we
were the only ones having the problem. Brett, speaking of Brett, Brett's having a birthday today.
21. Been waiting on it for a long time.
So I was gonna sing. We're gonna sing "Happy Birthday" to you, but you're just gonna have to hear this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys start singing, then I know our viewership's gonna go way down.
That, my friend, is a fact.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that.
So,
Brett, but happy birthday, bud. What are you, 45?
21.
Yeah, you're just the pup of the group.
What's it like 45.
What's it like being the youngest of the group?
Just take solace, Brett, that I still got a decade and a half on you.
I still remember that the one of my father, the only birthday I remember, unfortunately, or that has stuck with me was my father was so vain. Now, he had the best head of hair on the planet.
I'll carry that.
Unfortunately, I didn't get that, but he started
Okay,
going
that's
gray
good.
real young. So he started dyeing his hair and all that. I remember his 40th birthday, and I thought, God, Dad's 40. Oh my God, he's old, and I'm 45. So that every year I think about that.
Just think, you'll always be the pup of the group.
And of my family, I'm the baby in the family. So one of my sisters texted me, said, "Happy birthday, baby brother." I'm like, "That's right. Don't you ever forget that."
Just think, when you get as old as I am, then Ed's ancient history. You just want to look this good, bud, when you're this age, when you get old like this.
And I tell you what,
you still got the beard, still got color to it. Mine's pretty much turning the other way.
here's a card that my sister from Atlanta sent me, and I got to looking at it. I said, "Holy shit! If I had one of my baby pictures minus a beard, that's exactly what I look. Look at the hairline."
Do you remember Mike Fitzhenry, Eric?
Oh yeah, yep.
That would have been his baby picture. I went to school with him. He was the only kid in our whole class that, as a freshman, had a full beard.
Yeah, you get those guys where it's like evening shadows in 8th grade, So
I remember some in 10th grade already losing their hair, and I thought, man, you poor bastards.
Well, I've had this mark right here since I was 18-year-old, right there.
Well, that's probably where I slapped the holy bejesus out of you when you weren't listening to me.
Probably. Like an uncle abuse. That's exactly.
Yeah, can't do that these days.
Yeah. But yeah, that mark started when I was 18, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. But
well, if you notice this stripe right here, it's been for about 3 years now, and I'm like, God, would something happen with this thing?
Yeah, I there's no vanity. I just said no self-respecting dude colors his hair. Whatever, that's fine.
Tell you what, my daddy was a player now. But I thought about it. Some of my sister's like, "Oh, you getting some gray? You look really good with your original hair color." And I'm like, Jesus, if I start dyeing, my dad will come back laughing at me. And I just imagine what my brother would say.
I gotta say, Brett, the first time I saw you, that's the first word to come to my mouth was player.
Yeah.
Among other things, yeah.
So we better get to it. The big college football playoffs start Friday night.
Playoffs?
With the first big matchup that pits Big Ten Indiana against Notre Dame. Indiana comes into it with the number 10 seed. Notre Dame's number 7. They are going to kick the playoffs off. They're both 11-1 on Friday night prime time.
About 20-degree weather in South Bend.
Yeah, but Indiana's a Big Ten team. They play in the cold weather.
Yeah. It's only 149 miles between the two schools, I believe.
Did you see what the average ticket prices were going for that game compared to the other games?
I want to say, what, $450, something like that?
They are fleecing those people because of the location between the two schools.
I'll tell you what, it's a historic stadium, man. That's what a few weeks ago when Bama was still in it, and all signs were pointing that it would be Alabama and South Bend. It would have been a huge ticket. And there would have been a lot of people from Alabama traveling up there. It's such a historic stadium. It's not a place we get to go to very often.
You people would have came up to Notre Dame for a game, and then they'd have been calling ambulances because you guys would be dead.
Yeah. What a frozen death, like popsicles.
I didn't know we had to wear these warm clothes up north. What's going on here?
Layers? What's layers?
Layers? You guys wear layers? Yeah, I wear a hooded sweatshirt, a coat, and a vest.
Long to figure out what fan Brett was. He couldn't have pulled off the northern accent.
Yeah,
No.
no. I would
That's
say
why I hate
easiest.
Mike's not here tonight, because there's such a big, between Mike and me, you can tell one from up north and one from the south. Mike's
Yeah,
got
there's
a
no
thick accent too.
no
Yeah, we're gonna
mistaking
have to
you
get
guys.
Mike back in the saddle. The old UFL season's getting close, and we got to have our
won't be long.
affiliate from Michigan Panthers on. He's
It
kind
will
of
not
been
be long.
100 days to kickoff today. 100 days exactly.
he's kind of been pulling an Eric, and been involved in coaching college football. And it's about time he gets back in the saddle here, though. So
Well, I'm telling you, it's very difficult when coaching gets in your blood, man. It's tough to get rid of. But I will tell you, as I bring up the college football bracket for us and get us moved here, I will tell you that it's starting to thin. There's just a lot that goes into it, a lot that, there's a lot of things that weren't a problem, say, when you were in high school, Ed, that just continue to get worse and worse and worse. There's going to come a time where people aren't going to want to coach anymore. It's going to be difficult, but it's coming.
Hey, Nick Saban was a freaking machine. Everybody around here knew his schedule, and with everything that's going on now that I rant about on a daily basis, he finally just said, enough.
Yeah,
Enough.
and it's not big money and all that kind of stuff, but I mean anymore, there's things I still love about it, and there's things that are driving guys like me and anybody else away from it. It's going to come a time where it's going to be very difficult to find quality guys that want to do it anymore, because you put a lot of people have no idea. I mean, I coach baseball, and I get there on a game day at noon when it's a home game, and I don't leave till 10:30, 11 o'clock. Like that, 50 cents an hour. Like nobody wants to do that and put up with the kind of crap you got. But anyway, enough about that. So we got first game on Friday is Indiana Notre Dame. What's the spread on that, Ed? 7 in favor of Notre Dame.
7-point favorites.
So
do you think? There's a lot of fans out there that don't feel that Indiana belongs. What do you think? What does Indiana have to do to walk away saving face? Do they have to win the game, or do they just have to keep it close, or what do you think?
With the big time haters, they're gonna have to win the game. But I've been pretty high on Notre Dame all season. Real proud of how Freeman has done up there. Seems like he, hate to bring up Brian Kelly and LSU, but Freeman has really pleasantly surprised me up there in South Bend, and done a solid job in recruiting. They're a little bit of a different situation with the NIL and some of their academic standards, but I can't hate on the program. But yes, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I think this is going to be one of the best games of the weekend. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be back and forth and go down to the very end. Notre Dame might end up covering at the end, but I think Notre Dame by 3. That's my prediction. But if Indiana does not come out of there with a win, I think everybody, all your naysayers and haters, will mention, hey, this team didn't have any quality wins this year. They beat up on all the lesser teams. They struggled when they went to Columbus. So in my eyes, they're going to have to come out there with a victory. And again, I'm really excited about the game. I think it's going to be a great game.
I agree, Brett. Indiana has to win. There is no – I mean, I suppose, like you said, the real haters, they have to win. And I suppose there's a middle of the road that says if it's a 3 to 7 point game, you'll hear the people say, you know what, Indiana may have lost that game, but they proved they deserve to be there, and blah blah blah.
Right.
I don't know how Indiana. I mean, they haven't proven to me at all that they can stay in this game.
They look real good against the lesser teams. I mean, again, but the one big game, and they just really laid an egg to me in Columbus. And then you have a Michigan team go up there with literally without a quarterback,
Right.
and somehow found a way to win. So it's not a good look for Indiana. And then when you go back and remember a few weeks before when Michigan went to Indiana, they kept it close the whole game, once again, without a quarterback.
Yeah, Indiana's in a spot where, had they played Ohio State close, had they really made that a game to where they looked like they belonged on the field with Ohio State,
Right.
I think I would probably be sitting here talking about Notre Dame and Indiana a little bit different. But like you said, they knew the stakes in that game.
Yeah.
They knew that they had the ability to show that Indiana football belongs in that conversation, and Ohio State pummeled them. Because of that, I just really think that this is going to be a kicking. I think
this
Notre
is gonna
Dame is going to kick him.
This is going to be probably one of the bigger games they've had in Notre Dame over the past few years. I mean, this kind of brings back a little bit of the heyday. I got to believe that the stadium's going to be rocking.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be a crowd. There's no question about it. It's and because of the proximity, what'd you say, Brett? 146 miles or 149 miles or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
You're gonna. I have to assume. I guess I haven't looked. I would have to assume that Indiana fans, even though it's at Notre Dame, have just as much opportunity at tickets. Or are they just treating this like a straight home game?
I imagine it's going to be a straight home game, but I got a feeling Indiana will probably get 10, 12,000, people in there,
Right.
which is a pretty sizable show. And I want to say it seats, about 83, 85, somewhere in that ballpark.
Or even though they're not doing it's at Notre Dame, but Indiana has that. I mean, it's just like they're treating it like a regular home game. To your knowledge.
To my knowledge, I know there's been a lot of things I've seen online, mainly by Tennessee fans, that they think they're going to go up to Columbus and take over the Horseshoe. I mean, Tennessee travels real well, and it's their first ever playoff appearance. And I know the Ohio State fans are a little down in the mouth once again after what happened against Michigan. So I would expect a lot of orange in Columbus, maybe 15,000.
Well, I got to think Indiana's got to start fast and get the lead, because if they get down quick
Right.
and the crowd takes over, I could see this game getting out of hand.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest key for Indiana is they got to come out and they've got to punch. They got to punch Notre Dame in the mouth quickly as they possibly can. If I was Indiana, I might even think about taking the ball. If I win the coin toss, I might take the ball.
Yeah.
Just to do anything to try to take the crowd out of it, to try to take any type of momentum, away from Notre Dame, big game, and try to take it out of that stadium as quickly as possible to have a chance at winning that game.
Right.
I'm not saying it can't be done, and heck, we could be, next week talking about how Indiana, did this and did that, but right now, I just can't see. I mean, I can't see Indiana winning this game, let alone I think 7's even a little light on this game.
Well, something keeps telling me it's going to be a back and forth, real good battle, but I don't know why. I mean, Notre Dame always seems at times to play down to the competition. Be a nice environment Friday night. A chance of a little snow. The weather shouldn't affect either team, of course, because they're both from up that way.
Right. Yeah, it isn't like SMU coming to Penn State. That's going to be interesting.
John's trying to get under your skin there,
I see it. I just choose to ignore it now. I just choose to ignore it.
I'm not even reading the comments. How are you doing tonight, John?
I think one of these days we're gonna have to get you two together and go have a beer or something.
I'll tell you what, man. I'm that's going to be a neat environment in South Bend in such a historic stadium. Friday night, first ever playoff game, at a home team stadium on campus with the new expanded playoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun. But Indiana, they do need to start fast. You're right, because they've got to have. I know the coaches might not, but the players, after what happened in Columbus, has got to have that little thought in the back of their head: do we really belong?
Yeah.
They get down 10 to nothing, it could go bad.
Yeah, they've got to tip that scale. They've got to get out to a shell shock number of a score or two, not field goals. They need a touchdown, field goal, 2 touchdowns. 2 field goals get them nothing. But if they can somehow shock Notre Dame and kind of have the crowd thinking, "Holy cow!" Just whatever they can do to try to take the air out of the stadium. That's what they have to do because. Going into Notre Dame is not an easy task by any stretch, but Notre Dame's been playing really well, and Indiana, again, as we've talked about many times, hasn't proven a whole lot as far as what their schedule looked like.
Well, let's look at the last 5 games each team's played and who's more ready for a matchup of this magnitude. Notre Dame's last 5 games. USC, Army, Virginia, Florida State, Navy. So they won all those games pretty handily, but not a whole lot there as far as quality teams goes. Look at Indiana's last 5. Purdue, of course, that was a boat race. But then you had Ohio State, Michigan State, and Washington. So I got to think that going into this game anyway, it sure appears to me like Indiana is going to be a little bit maybe more battle tested.
So you're taking Indiana?
No. Just trying to throw you guys the bait.
Gotcha. You're throwing bait out. Okay, well.
So anyway, let's go ahead and do our picks for this game so we move on to the next one. I'll start off.
I'm taking the Fighting I Wish. Okay, go ahead.
And I'm taking Notre Dame. How about you, Brett?
Notre Dame.
We got Chad taking Notre Dame as well.
I'll take the Fighting I Wish.
And we wonder why John doesn't like him.
Henry, no, I never would have started that, but he's felt the need to bag on the Big 12 even when we're not talking about it. So I gotta keep it going.
What's he saying if you call him the Little 12?
We got John's Notre Dame, of course. Henry's Notre Dame. Not much else to be said about this game.
No,
I think it's Notre Dame. So
next game we have is if you want to pull that up, Eric, do you have it?
Yeah, it's Saturday at 11, right?
Yeah. SMU at 11-2, seeded number 11, is going to Penn State, who's seeded number 6, who's also 11-2. It's the early game on Saturday. Penn State is 8.5-point favorites. I don't know, boys. When you talk about the top 12, supposedly now, the top 12 teams in the football playoffs, to have point spreads like this just doesn't seem realistic. If you truly got the top 12 teams in the country in this tournament, wouldn't you think that the numbers would be a little bit closer?
Well, we've beat that horse to death. We've beat the whole ranch to death about that. No, the top 12 teams are not in the playoffs, but it is what it is.
So the Penn State's always had a formidable defense. What kind of resistance is SMU going to give Penn State's offense to keep this game close?
My question is, after watching Penn State play Oregon, is Penn State defensively kind of, I thought
They looked slow.
Yeah, they looked slow. And I'm not quite sure what to think about it. They looked slow. What's SMU? Is SMU going to be able to get on a roll? If SMU gets on a roll, I mean,
it can get ugly up there, especially with a lot of the hate that James Franklin got after the Ohio State game. He's taken a lot of flack up there for not being able to win a big game. His record against ranked teams and his record in big games up there is putrid. It's pitiful. Now they always seem to beat the teams they're supposed to beat, but I'm with you. SMU's got a mobile quarterback. If he can catch fire, it could create a lot of problems up in Happy Valley for Penn State. They get down 7-10 points and the boo birds start coming out. I mean, there was a lot of ugly stuff that was said after that Ohio State game in the stadium and publicly. Franklin really, really, really needs to get this W.
Can Penn State keep up with the speed of SMU? The biggest thing that I worry about SMU is up front. That's where I worry about SMU the most, is up front. Offensively, can they handle Penn State's defense up front? That's my biggest worry. But a game can be controlled completely up there. So does SMU do they have that, Brett?
They're going to struggle up front, but where I think they're going to struggle even more is, me being a Southern boy, born and raised, a lot of the Penn State guys now, they're from all over the country, but they practice in that weather on a constant basis. They play in it quite often, and SMU does not. And I know from experience it's a heck of a lot harder to catch a ball in cold weather than it is hot weather. And I think that could end up being a big difference maker, Saturday morning. I know it's going to be real cold. I can't remember all the details. I don't think there's any chance of snow, but keep in mind, SMU's in Dallas. They don't get many 20-degree days down there. Maybe 1 or 2 a year, if that.
I think of the 2 games that I look at in this first round, Penn State will probably end up winning this game by 2 touchdowns. But this game and the Tennessee-Ohio State game, I think there could be something happen here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, Penn State could win by 14, and it goes to script. But I don't know. What do you think, Ed? I don't know if this game goes as easy for Penn State as maybe the 8.5 point spread.
Where was when SMU played Clemson? Where was that game played at?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yep.
I remember distinctively before that game started, the coach was giving a pep talk to his players about going to playing that game against Clemson, and he made reference to the fact that he couldn't wait to go out and play in the cold. And I thought to myself, okay, so you're pumping your players up to travel to North Carolina to play in the cold. So I kind of have a feeling that SMU's not going to be too battle tested as far as the weather's concerned. I think that's going to play a part in it. With Penn State's defense, I could see some turnovers being created. Sometimes when you got fast offenses like that and you're going up against stout defenses and they're not used to playing in the cold and they're not carrying that ball too secure, then
Well, they're not carrying it secure because they can't feel it because our hands are frozen because we're not used to being up there in that cold ass weather. It's not that they're not trying; they just can't feel the ball. I mean,
because they can't feel it.
they can't feel their hands.
Yeah, I think I don't think Penn State probably has the offense to blow this game open early, but I think they'll be able to keep control of this game, and I just think as the second half goes on, that they're going to get more and more control on this game, and I could see them winning by at least 14, 17 points.
Yeah,
Be my guess.
14 is what I'm thinking too. But the reason I say this is, and we've talked about this about the weather. It's one of the things that Brett talked about. Interested to see how some of these SEC teams who never play in the cold now would have to go up to potentially, Penn State or Ohio State or Notre Dame, wherever. If SMU, if the weather is not an issue and they manage their turnovers, I do think they have a shot to win this game. I don't think is the Oregon game that Penn State was able to is that an outlier, or is that has Penn State really stepped it up? I mean, offensively, Penn State looked unstoppable there for about 3 drives in that Oregon game. So I don't know. Am I grasping for straws here, Brett? Or am I giving SMU too much credit?
SMU's offense is definitely set up similar to Oregon's and is set up to give Penn State problems, having their guys out on an island. But to me, I feel like the X factor is going to be the weather and just the cold. There's going to be some fumbles and some drop passes. I'd be shocked if SMU doesn't fall victim to the cold weather up there.
All right. Well,
So let's go ahead and pick this game. I think we're beating the same drum here. So I'll start off. Both Chad and I are both taking Penn State.
I'm taking Penn State and Happy Valley by a touchdown.
yeah, I've got them by at least 10. I'm guessing it's probably a clean sweep. That's the unfortunate thing. Is the problem with the way these games are set up right now is there's not one game under 7. I don't think these games are going to go as chalk as maybe Vegas does. I mean, Vegas isn't wrong very often, but I just can't see these games going chalk like that. But
There's always going to be one team that just has a bad game.
yeah.
Whether it's penalties or turnovers or a combination of both. If this game was played in a dome and a neutral site with AstroTurf, SMU spread could really give Penn State some problems. I just think Penn State with the home crowd and that weather is just going to be too much.
Henry's taking SMU. I hope I didn't convince you, Henry, but like I said, this game, I don't know. There's just something about this game. I don't have the same feelings in the Indiana Notre Dame game that I have in this game.
Yeah.
For a potential upset, but I guess we will see on.
We
Saturday.
talk about must wins on this show all the time, and I'm telling you, James Franklin, this is a must win for him. It really is.
Yeah, there's no question about that. The Penn State fans are not going to be forgiving if they brought this game to SMU at home. At home. Especially, this is the problem, and I thought about this too with Penn State. All they've heard for how long now is, Penn State has the best road. Oregon got screwed. Penn State's got the best road. And, that can play on, college kids' minds.
Yeah.
And we've said it too. I'd rather be Penn State than I would Oregon. And Oregon has a bye the first round.
Yeah.
But they've also been hearing that kind of stuff too. So, yeah, like I said, this just feels like the trap game of trap games for Penn State. But for Franklin's case, I hope not, but I guess we'll see. On to the 2:00 game, Ed. What do we got?
Well, let's take a break first.
Okay.
And courtesy, let's see, take that down, would you, Eric?
I sure can.
Courtesy of the UFL, let's take a quick break and we'll play this little UFL commercial again. This is going to be courtesy of the United Football League. We'll be right back.
The best of the best is coming together. There's no more what ifs. We're all one league now.
Ready to shut it off. I'm number one in the building.
There's no more talk. Put up or shut up. We'll see who the top dogs is now.
Strap it up and line it up.
Joining forces means more power.
Delirium in D.C.
More potential. More reach.
Unbelievable.
Look for a chance to play ball, man. A chance to show that you still got it.
The hunger is unreal.
Helmet goes on. Nothing else in the world matters.
Tell them I'm ready. Whatever they want, 'cause I'm ready.
A league that pushes the envelope and opens the door to living the dream.
I've been an underdog my whole career.
Football is kind of my last resort. If I could just get this one little break.
Brace the moment, man. This is as fun as it gets right here.
United, they stand to stake a claim to springtime for America's favorite game. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready. No, we ready. Yes, sir. Ready to run it back.
Hell yeah, I'm ready.
For a new era.
Let's go.
New challenges.
Best in the nation.
A new beginning.
The time is now.
Line it up, Playboy. Let's do it.
I can't wait to see you guys play.
Are you ready?
This is the United Football League.
Just don't blink.
Let's go! I'm ready.
Just around the corner, man. Just around the corner.
Man, I'm ready. I wish we had these other two teams they keep talking about. Imagine us having 12 teams 2 years from now. That'll be fun. That'll be a lot of fun.
So let's move on to the third game.
We ain't gonna talk UFL now. Y'all done got me all upset, all hot and bothered.
No, we gotta go back.
There went my picture and everything. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, we're moving on to the third matchup, the 3:00 game on Saturday. Clemson 10-3, who's the number 12 seed, is pit against number 5 seeded Texas, who's 11-2. Texas is 11.5-point favorites. So another. Well, this one's the first double-digit favorite, but again, looking at ESPN matchup predictor, they got over 80% in favor of Texas winning this game. So, or not Texas, excuse me. Yeah, Texas. Sorry.
Well, again, anybody can win any of these games. They could. I mean, Clemson could win, but on paper, and Brett, you would know, Clemson better than me. Texas looks overwhelming compared to Clemson. I mean, talk me into how Clemson potentially wins this game.
Look, I'm a salesman, but I ain't that damn good a salesman. No, I've got to give a shout out to my boy Dabo that I was hating on last week's show. Just like that meme I shared from the guy at Jurassic Park when they all of a sudden saw the dinosaurs and he looks out the window. The guy that played the Fly. You remember? Can't remember his name right now, the actor, but he said he did it. The crazy son of a bitch did it. Well, guess what? Dabo finally went into the portal and got him a receiver this week. This is what, the third or fourth year of the portal, and finally Dabo got him somebody. Bless his heart. Everybody, just for a second, golf clap.
Yeah.
Eric, Ed, golf clap. Okay.
Good job, Dabo.
There you go, Dabo. Welcome to modern day football. Hope you enjoy it. Look, Dabo's a good coach. Clemson does have some talent, but I don't really think people respect how good Texas is. Now, yes, they lost 2 games to Georgia. The second game could have really went either way. I didn't have a dog in the fight, and the first thing I noticed, and one of the other guys that helps me out with the SEC group mentioned was the referees and the one-sided officiating, which I love the fact that Sark brought that up at halftime of that game and left the little girl on the sideline speechless because, of course, she can't have an opinion. Texas is really good, and they're at home. 105,000 is going to be there. And Clemson, look, anybody can win, but I think Texas is going to prove once again my point that Clemson's one of the teams in these playoffs that does not belong. And to me, minus 12 ain't enough.
No, I think the minus 12 is a lot is definitely not enough. I think this is the one game that screams blowout to me. None of the other 3, the Friday night game, I mean, Notre Dame, I got them at 10. That's not a blowout. SMU, Penn State could end up winning, like I said, by 14, 17 points, but SMU scares me because they have the tools that Penn State could potentially struggle with. I've looked at this game and I've been trying to find an angle. That's why I asked you. And Ed, if you have a way you can convince me that Clemson can win this game.
It's not a good matchup for Clemson.
No, like this to me looks like the most lopsided potential game there because I just don't see, and again, could be proven wrong, but I just don't see where Clemson has that could change the game. Up front, speed on the outsides compared to Texas, or a scrambling court. Like I just don't see what Clemson has that Texas is like. Well, man, we've had a lot of trouble with what Clemson does here. Does it? I just don't see that. That's my struggle with this game. That's why I think this could be a 3-touchdown game.
One of the so-called experts, and just to show you how much I thought of his opinion. I didn't even share it on the bottom line. You guys know I'm pretty good about sharing hot takes and things like that. I didn't share it on Instagram, Facebook, or X. I just looked at it and thought, I can't really repeat what I thought, but I thought the man had lost his mind. He thinks that Clemson might be one of those that can make some noise and contend for a championship. And I just go back to Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't Colin Cowherd, but it was a Colin Cowherd take. I thought, when's the last time you watched football? You get paid to watch it and cover it. Clemson's got some pieces on the defensive line, on the offensive line, a wide receiver here. But Texas, once again, is the best roster money can buy. And I'm not being a jerk about it. Look at their NIL. They're in the top 2. Look at their roster and their recruiting the last 3 years. They are freaking loaded with 4 and 5 stars. Heck, their best wide receiver is Isaiah Bond, which they bought from Alabama last year. He wasn't even in the portal. And I know what he got and what he got offered before he went into the portal, which that went on this week from Ole Miss as well, just to throw that out there. And Sark, you throw Sark in the mix, and I still say Sark might be the best play caller still in college football. And it's in Austin. Look, I'm wrong every day, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong on this one. I think Texas, I think Arch Manning will be in the game by the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Texas.
I think it could get really ugly.
Yeah.
And it's going to open a lot of conversation and a lot of controversy about, do we go to a 14 team next year, and why are we giving these automatic bids and all that and the other. This game could cause a lot of problems in the offseason if it turns out the way I think it's going to.
Ed, tell me why
Yeah.
Clemson's going to win.
I ain't gonna tell you anything because I don't think they will.
I struggle with this game.
I mean, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but for me,
Dabo's a good coach, man. He split with Nick Saban. He went 2-2 against Nick when we were in our heyday. We could have easily went 3-1. They could have easily went 3-1 in our matchups. Don't count out Dabo's coaching. I just don't think he's got the horses. Going back to the horse subject, I just don't think he does.
I just look at this as I want this first round. You know, as much as I don't want, I've always said on this show, I've said it for weeks, I want to see good games. But as long as this is the method they're going to use for the college football playoffs, I just think these first round games are going to more than not be snoozer games. And I'm hoping that it's a double-edged sword. I want to see good football, but yet I want to see 4 lopsided games just to prove a point to the committee that you guys got it wrong. So I don't know. We're probably lacking a little energy tonight on these games. I mean, we should be up in the screen and going nuts about these games because it's the college football playoffs, right?
Oh, I'm excited, but
it's just that you look at these games and it's like you keep looking at each matchup. What's going to be the game to watch? And I just
we're fixing to get to it, baby.
There's only one game I think to watch.
We're fixing to get to it.
Unfortunately, but like I said, and this is.
We could be wrong. Every one of these games might be where you don't even want to get up, but you got to pause the TV to go use the restroom, you know?
Right.
And I hope that's the case. I mean, whether I'm a Bama fan or whoever, I don't care. I love good football.
So are we leaning? I mean, we're not going to go past the first hour with college because we've got a lot of hot takes in football and NFL we got to get to. So
yeah, let's move on to the next game.
Texas is going to be a clean sweep. Let's make it a clean sweep.
It's a clean sweep here.
But
it's a clean sweep, and they're going to double that point spread. They will win by at least 24.
But
prediction.
But Brett, as we talk about, as you as I have talked about, we've had 3 games that we've talked about, and pretty much all of them have been snoozer conversation, right?
Yeah.
Now, this format being, so much the way Eric wanted it to be, you would think that Eric would be picking some of these higher seeds. So before we go on to the next game, I was going to play Eric's theme song and let him comment after the fact.
Now, remember, guys, listeners, watchers, Eric was the one that was bagging on Bama, bagging on the SEC, bagging on this. But this team should be here, and this team don't belong, and this team, that's just fair for that. Well, then why is he not picking those teams? Hold on.
Am I hearing crow?
That's a lot of crow.
Are you done with that? So I can tell you how wrong you are?
They sound upset, Eric.
Don't you
they're double teaming now.
Don't you remember when I told you that, and I actually did this for you, when we did the re-ranking? No, you didn't get anything. And
no, we did.
And I will prove it to you. But the problem is they didn't re-rank them. When I showed you with the re-rankings, and I showed you how these teams could have provided a lot better games, and you would have saw a lot different spreads.
I just cannot believe we're still looking at Boise State as a 3-hole with a bye. Tell me we're not really looking at that.
That is why, without the re-ranking of the teams, once you get them in there, that is why it looks like it does. You can have the same teams in there. If you were to re-rank them, we would be talking about games that probably had 4 or less point spreads. But instead, they just gave Boise State, because they were high ranked, that number 3 slot. This is why we're ending up with what we are. It just is.
We should have shared that Mike Leach rant when he was at, and rest in peace, Pirate man. He was such a great personality for college football. I still hate that happened 2 years ago over in Starkville, but we need to play that next week. His rant about committees. When he was at Washington State. Oh, we should just start a committee. We're American. We like committees. And why should we ask them their opinion? Because we're the ones that's in the know.
Right.
I mean, these people that are in these committees, you want to go in there like me and Eric or Ed, all of us that are big football guys, and just drill them for 5 minutes each. Just ask them some questions, see what we can catch them on. Because I guarantee you, they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground when it comes to football on some of these decisions they made.
Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
So let's go. Let's get on to the last game. We got number 9 Tennessee, number 9 seeded Tennessee is 10-2, traveling to Ohio State, who's seeded number 8 at 10-2 as well. Ohio State's 7.5 point favorites. It's the late game on Saturday night. I see this as possibly Coach Ryan Day's make it or break it game, because as successful as his record has been as head coach of Ohio State, if he loses the first round of this college football playoffs, I think there's going to be quite a groundswell to move on to another head coach.
Being 1-4 against Michigan has already started it. You go drop this game to Tennessee, and they are going to want to drop the hatchet on him. Would you agree, Brett? Is that how you see it?
I look at his record and what he's done there and the recruiting and all that. Ohio State's another top 3, top 4 NIL. Who do you bring in? Who do you replace him with? I mean, the name that's already come up is Urban Meyer, with everything that happened with Urban and Ohio State, and then how things fell apart in Jacksonville when he was with the Jaguars. Schools are willing to take a chance and a risk when they keep losing to the rival. So don't discount that possibility. It would be wild, but Ryan really needs to win this game, and heaven forbid if Tennessee goes up there and curb stomps them and is playing Rocky Top every 10 minutes. He's gonna have a problem.
That would be bad. That would be embarrassing.
What's the spread on this one? 7.5?
7.5.
No.
I don't see that.
No.
I mean, this is the one game where I thought to myself, Ohio State's coming off that loss in Michigan. One of two things are going to happen. Either they're coming off that loss to Michigan, they come out to prove something at home, and the Ohio State shows up that the fans expect to show up. Or Tennessee comes in there and boat races them, and people are losing their minds, and it'd be beautiful for Ohio State, I guess. But I mean, tell me, and Tennessee better than the rest of us, Brett. Tell me why Tennessee can win this game.
Their roster's loaded. Their offense, and ask the man himself, that offense that they run, Nick Saban hated with a purple passion, worse than any offense he's faced in his 17 years at Alabama. They spread you from sideline to sideline. Their wide receivers they come out of their routes a lot further away than the hash marks. You leave your linebackers out on an island with a tight end or a running back, and they've got a mobile quarterback. it puts a lot of strain and a lot of pressure on that defense. And again, Ohio State, in my opinion, does not have the speed and the horses to defend that offense. Their saving grace for this game is going to be the weather, which it gets cold up on Rocky Top too. But the fact they're facing a freshman quarterback, he has been Caleb Williams of college football this year. He's been up and down. You can see the talent's there, but at times you can tell he might not necessarily be ready yet. But I'm gonna tell you what, you guys are gonna be surprised with my pick on this one. I think Ohio State's gonna have a big problem.
Ed, what about you? What do you think? Or are you just saying Ohio State just got the dogs and this is gonna be a boat race?
I firmly believe this game is a save Ryan Day's job game. And I just think my pick's going to be Ohio State because I just have a feeling that as a program they're going to find a way to get it done, because when you look at first they lose to Oregon at Oregon when when it was fully expected that they were going to win that game. Then they have the dumpster fire losing to Michigan. I don't think the fan base, the organization can stand a third consecutive loss of this magnitude in one season. They're lucky if they have one of these a year, let alone the potential of having their third devastating loss in the same season. I just think Ohio State's going to find a way to win this game.
Keep in mind too, when you've got hated rivals like Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, and Auburn, so much of what the other school is doing plays a part in your decision making on going out and getting a different coach, going out and doing this. And Michigan has done loaded their NIL up. They just paid the number one, number two quarterback in the country. They've just got a couple players from Bama this week NIL. Michigan is making moves off the field on top of the fact they beat them 4 straight years on the field. Ohio State, you might see Urban Meyer in Columbus a month from now, depending on what happens Saturday night. Urban's won everywhere he's been, and he's very intelligent. He knew exactly when he left the SEC and went to the Big Ten where he needed to improve those rosters. At what positions a lot of Big Ten players were lacking in, and he recruited towards it and won a national championship at Ohio State.
So you're picking Ohio State.
Better win this game.
You're picking Ohio State then?
No. Absolutely not. All this they need to and they got to and all that. You ain't got to do nothing. Bill Curry needed to beat Auburn his third year when we won the SEC. He didn't do it, and the following Monday his ass was fired. Ryan Day, if he loses games, in trouble, and I think Tennessee wins this game. They get zero respect for their defense because their offense at times is so explosive. Tennessee is grown men on both lines of scrimmage. Statistically, they've got a top 5 offensive line, top 5 defensive line, and got some hellacious linebackers too. Give me Tennessee and an upset, and it's going to get ugly up there in Columbus.
Where did Tennessee finish in the SEC, Brett? Was it third?
Third.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to use this simple logic to solve this problem. I have been told all year that the SEC is superior to all other conferences. So therefore, I am going to take the third place team in the SEC over the third place team in the Big Ten.
You want to know why I'm really worried about Ohio State on this one? Tennessee's pass rush is so strong. And this is one of the very few years in the last 25 years that Ohio State does not really have a mobile quarterback.
Right.
It
And that was
spells
one of the
trouble.
factors.
It spells trouble for Ohio State. The only what's the weather supposed to be like up there Saturday night, guys? I imagine it's going to be cold.
It's cold, but I think they're calling for some snow in Happy Valley, but I don't think they're calling for snow for the Ohio State game.
It gives me pause worrying about Tennessee's receivers catching the ball in that real cold weather. But I'm gonna tell you what, Ohio State and they might pull it out Saturday night. But if they think that they're gonna walk in there and that Tennessee's gonna fold like a lawn chair, they've got another thing coming. They have got some horses, and that again, that their offense spreads you out so far. It puts so much strain on the linebackers and safeties. I think Ohio State's in trouble in this game.
The temperature, snow and rain are unlikely this weekend in Columbus. But Saturday's low is 14 degrees and the high is 27.
That could be the difference. I'm gonna stick with my Tennessee pick. I feel like they're overall a better team.
So you guys got a chance to make up one on me then, because I got Ohio State. Chad is with you guys. He's going to Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
So as is everybody on the comment. John, Mike, Henry, all Tennessee. So you're on an island, bud.
I am on an island. So with that being said,
you wouldn't think that. You wouldn't think it, but I had my mind made up about that game for a week.
Listen, I'm telling you, these are all high point spreads, and I told Ed before the show, I don't believe this is going chalk.
No, there's going to be an upset, but I don't think it's going to be Clemson.
I saw today where somebody said that watch out for Clemson; they could be in the national championship. And I think you alluded to it.
Yeah. I can't remember who said it. I didn't even bother sharing it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not with you, but okay, that's great.
I should have shared it because I'd have got a lot of laughs and responses and some new followers.
Yes. So
let's take a quick break. Let's hear from Wild Sun Winery, our official sponsor for our show.
And if you haven't been out there, get out there. If you ever have a chance. Right.
If you haven't been out there, what are you waiting for? They got wine, beer, food.
And it's
a
all
great
phenomenal.
time. They got live music every weekend. So if you get an opportunity to go out there, if you live in the St. Louis area and you have a chance to get out there, go out and give it a try. It's not you won't be disappointed, that's for sure. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we are going to dabble in the NFL.
Can we do a real quick UFL update, Ed? 1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay.
All right. Mike Mitchell came out, wrote a story, which he was a guest with us, last week, guys, or the week before? Week before.
Week before.
That the schedule is set to be released on December 29th. Everybody's been asking. We said it's going to be right around Christmas. It's supposed to be live. I don't know if Rock or Danny or Moose is going to be doing it, but I think it's going to be before the kickoff of the Alabama-Michigan game, and then they're going to release it or mention it again later that day. But it's supposed to be December 29th. should get a full schedule, all the teams, and get the location for the championship game. Also, Anthony Beck made a tweet earlier today on X that something's brewing. I don't know what it is. I'm hearing it might be your future quarterback, Battlehawks fans. We shall see. Some other signings going on. I'm still hearing from other sources that Seattle is definitely one of the two that they're leaning real strong to bring in back for 2026. And that's really all I got to say for the UFL right now. December 29th schedule is finally coming out.
So, with that said, let's get into some Week 16 NFL Power Rankings.
That was solid, Brett. You were under a minute, by the way, bud.
I was working on it.
Been a little movement. If you'd have talked to me earlier this season, I never would have thought that I would have Philadelphia as the number one team in my power rankings. But they have taken over the number one spot. Detroit's just been decimated with injuries. We've got a hot topic on them coming up, so I don't want to spend too much time on Detroit.
No, we can't waste it on this, yes.
Yeah, I can't waste it on this. So we got Buffalo and Kansas City sliding up to 2 and 3. I got Detroit falling to number 4. Thought about moving Minnesota up at this point, but I'm going to leave them where they're at. You know, there are certain teams in the NFL that are media darlings. That's for sure. You look at the Green Bay Packers. I have them at number 6. If you look at a lot of power rankings that's out there right now, Green Bay has reached top 4 status in some of the power rankings that I've seen. You know, it's funny. There's teams that can lose a game.
And they love them for it.
But yet, when they win the next week, they're all of a sudden they're Super Bowl contenders all over again.
Yeah, that game never happened.
So Green Bay's record is 10-4. Who have they lost to? Philadelphia.
Minnesota,
and Detroit twice. So 3 teams that are above them are all their losses. But yet we're supposed to believe that Green Bay is a serious contender for a Super Bowl title. I don't get it.
They want them.
They want them so bad.
It does. They can't stand it. They want Green Bay to be good so bad that they just can't help themselves. It's almost become they're almost the Kansas City of the NFC.
Yeah.
They would much rather it be Kansas City and Green Bay than Kansas City and Philadelphia or Kansas City and Detroit. They just cannot help themselves. I mean, you look at it, you know what got noticed to me, Ed, and this may have stuck out more prevalent to you. Green Bay is 3rd in the division. Yet they get more press than Minnesota. And to me, what Minnesota has done is more impressive than what Green Bay has done.
But yet when you talk, who did they talk to? God, who was it? Marcus Ware something. Someone said earlier, I heard it yesterday on a sports talk show. They're just not convinced with Minnesota because Minnesota hasn't played anybody. What are they talking about?
Hell, they've played everybody. Well, you know.
I mean, and then so let's put this.
Look, they're not sold. Let's be honest. They're not sold on Minnesota because of your quarterback. Let's just be honest.
I want to show you something here because all you hear about is how when Detroit and Minnesota played the first time around, they always talk about how the Vikings were manhandled by Detroit. Okay? So we go back to their first time they played on October 20th. Mind you, Detroit won that game on a last-second field goal. Last play of the game, they won that. You look at total yards. less than 10 apart. Passing, less than 10 apart. Rushing, less than 10 apart. Yards per play, Minnesota actually had more. Third down efficiency, the same. Total play is practically the same. So you tell me, what am I missing that, sure, I'm a Minnesota fan, but if you look, pick the source, pick the show, whatever. Minnesota is getting zero love out there.
Right. Because listen, there's no, like, other than, and we're going back a long ways, and some of the people watching probably aren't even going to know what the hell we're talking about, but other than the purple people eaters, like, what is the nostalgia? What is it that is around Minnesota? I mean, you have, in Green Bay, you have the Lombardi Trophy, obviously Vince Lombardi, Green Bay, all of that. You have in the NFC, you have the Hallis Trophy, the Bears, one of the oldest franchises, the 85 Bears and the Super Bowl shoving all that goes around that. And second in championships in the NFL. The thing that Minnesota is lacking is I just don't think they get any credit, because other than the 4 Super Bowl losses, what do they have? And I'm asking you, like, what is it about Minnesota that outside of being a Minnesota fan, people be like, they hate this or they love this? Like, people either love, hate the 85 Bears, whatever, but they were something. Or Green Bay with the nostalgia that they have and the cheeseheads. Like, what does Minnesota have that if you're not a Viking fan, that it's like, well, you still got to respect it?
What I put my finger on is the fact that when you look back at the 70s, they were in 3 Super Bowls. They were one in the 60s, but they lost all 4 of them, right? Denver was in the same boat. Denver was an 0 for, I think they were 0-5 or something in the Super Bowl. Well, then John Elway was finally ready, was finally able to crack through, and they won not one, but they won 2 Super Bowls.
Right.
And kind of got Denver put on the map.
Yes.
I think that Minnesota is still wallowing, being 0-4 in the Super Bowl, and there's been some playoff games over the years where Minnesota was either boat raced or they were supposed to win and didn't.
They found ways to lose.
The 98 Vikings, who went 15-1, that should have been in the Super Bowl. But what's similar about this year versus the 98 Minnesota Vikings is kind of a role reversal. Okay, we've got all this year where Detroit went through the whole season, win. Nobody's talking about Minnesota. Philadelphia, win. Nobody's talking about Minnesota. Well, in 98, when Minnesota went 15-1, there was a team, the Atlanta Falcons, that went 14-2. They kept winning. They didn't talk about them. They were, they got the Dirty Birds mantra towards the end of the season. But really, during the season, the talk was all about Minnesota, because Minnesota was breaking the scoring record for the NFL that year. And they got a lot of, it was Randy Moss's rookie season.
Correct.
Chris Carter in his prime. They got all this talk. And then at the end, when push come to shove, Atlanta pulled the big upset to make it to the bowl. Here we are now. Minnesota's in that role, sitting just behind Philadelphia and Detroit. Not getting any love at all. But
I'm gonna tell you right now, as we sit today, if I had to put $1,000 on who I thought had a better chance to make the Super Bowl, I would put my money on Minnesota. And I'll tell you why. Detroit has 16 defensive players out. That's on top of David Montgomery being out for the year and a few other injuries on the offensive side. And I'm not going to mention the other handicap they have, as we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I don't understand why Minnesota is lost in the wash. I just, for the life of me, Minnesota, when they beat Green Bay the first time, that was at Lambeau, correct?
Yeah, it was at Lambeau.
Yeah.
But yet they, when they talk about it, Minnesota hasn't played anybody. Well, I would say beating Green Bay at Lambeau is a quality win, wouldn't you?
Especially if you're talking about Green Bay being some kind of Super Bowl contender.
Chris brings up a good point here, and I think there's a lot of truth to it. The Vikings are the Buffalo of the NFC. Because Buffalo, when they went to 4 straight Super Bowls and never got a win, Buffalo got that reputation of not being able to win the big one. I think, and he elaborates, on what I mentioned, the fact that sometimes when they're bad, they really look bad.
Right.
And I think that everything they gained when they're playing good football, they can throw away in 1 or 2 bad matchups.
But why is that? Why is that? So they have a bad game against the Jags, and Chris mentions it here. Yep, they win 12-7, did not look good at all. They had this snoozer against the Jets. They end up winning that, was it 21-17 or something like that. But so the people in the sports media look at that and say, oh, yeah, see, I told you Minnesota's not very good. Yep, I told you, see, Minnesota's not very good. It's clearly Detroit, and watch out for those Packers.
But that just sticks.
But it sticks to them.
That sticks to them week after week after week. Whereas the Packers, they're Super Bowl contenders. They lose. The next week they win. They're Super Bowl contenders again.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
It's just.
Well, and here's the deal: Buffalo doesn't even get that same treatment like Minnesota, like I believe Minnesota has. Buffalo. They're the first team. The first team. I got to make sure I get this correct. The first team to give up. Is it the first team to give up back-to-back 40-point weeks? In the history of the NFL, to give up back-to-back 40-point weeks to a team.
And not lose both games.
Yeah.
But when you listen to the sports talk shows this week, Buffalo is their Super Bowl bound, baby, and they give
100%.
up back-to-back 40+.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Eric says, it's a quarterback-driven league, and you guys do not have a quote-unquote popular quarterback at this time. I think that's playing a part in it as well.
But Sam Darnold's carrying the weight of his stay with the Jets.
Yeah.
His stay with the Panthers, being the backup in San Francisco. I mean, honestly, what does Sam Darnold have to do? Brett, what does Sam Darnold have to do? Or Ed, what does Sam Darnold have to do?
They have to go deep into the playoffs.
Yeah.
If they
got to make it to at least the NFC Championship game.
If they make it to the playoffs this year and they get beat in the first round, all you're going to hear is, see, I told you so.
Same old Vikings. Same old Vikings. I mean, look, and how many playoff wins did Kirk Cousins have when he was with Minnesota?
One.
And he was there 6 years, correct?
Paid him a lot of money for that. That was expensive.
Was it 6 years?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think it's 6 years, and I could be wrong by a year. But let's say, in 6 years he won one playoff game. How many years did Minnesota win 10, 11 games or more with Kirk Cousins at the helm? 4 out of those 6 years for one playoff win. So, on the flip side, I could see a little bit where Minnesota gets the knife by the sports media. But man, this is not the same. This doesn't look like the same Minnesota team to me. It just doesn't look like the same. I mean, with Jefferson and Addison and Jones in the backfield, it doesn't look the same to me. So I don't know how you can hold years past.
Naylor's been doing a good
job.
I mean, they just.
But how do you hold years past against this version of the Vikings? But like you said, get to the playoffs, lose the first round, same old Vikings, turn the page. I mean, it's gonna take Minnesota. Minnesota's gonna have to do something. They're gonna have to make some noise. Yeah, they're gonna run into. The unfortunate thing is, and we have that bracket. The updated bracket as of right now. This could be the worst setup for Minnesota if it plays out the way it's set up right now. So, we can bring that up later and look at it. But that it could be rough for Minnesota to get to where I think Minnesota's got to be. But I don't know. I just think that Kansas City gets passes on everything. Green Bay gets passes on everything. And it just drives me nuts. Look at it. If Jordan Love has a bad game, 150 yards, maybe just a touchdown and interception. Well, Jordan Love had an off night, but he's still a Pro Bowl quarterback. Sam Darnold has that.
That's Josh Jacobs, man. They made the right decision. They got a running game.
Yes, it's unreal how.
I even think Cam Akers is a backup to Aaron Jones. I think they're a pretty good 1-2 punch. Cam Akers has been running the ball good.
I agree, 100%. But it just floors me how bad they get passes for poor play compared to others. It's kind of like we talk about this and Brett mentioned it. You don't have the quarterback. They so want Jordan Love to be the next Aaron Rodgers, just like they want Aaron Rodgers to be the next Brett Favre. They so wanted that because the NFL has certain teams. I mean, and quite frankly, the Bears are one of them. I've heard a lot of people say this. The NFL is better when Chicago is better.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's been so long since Chicago has really been better, because when Chicago's at the top of the division, that's all you hear about on talk radio. Oh, Chicago, this, Chicago. But now what do you hear? Oh, how bad is in Chicago? What should they do with Caleb? Who's going to be the next coach? Wait, they're not talking about the Titans that way. They're not talking about the Jaguars that way. But the NFL, it's like Dallas. The NFL needs Dallas to be good.
Yeah.
It's just Dallas has been falling on their face. The unfortunate part for Minnesota is I don't think the NFL believes that they need Minnesota, good or bad. I mean, do you think I'm wrong on that?
Oh, you're probably right.
That's the
smaller media market and all that.
Yeah. I mean, if Chicago was all of a sudden good next year, the NFL would be like, "Oh, it's about time." But with Minnesota, it's like, they're also Rams. Let's talk about Green Bay and Kansas City, and Buffalo can't be ignored because of Josh Allen, because he's having an MVP season. I think he's probably the front runner right now. And Philadelphia, and
and the Los Angeles Rams,
yeah. I mean, and the unfortunate part is, Detroit's getting all the love because, I mean, quite frankly, they were so bad for so long that the NFL loves the story of how Detroit's been able to turn it around in a couple of years.
So speaking of that story, let's go into our first top topic.
There you got it.
Dan Campbell will cost the Detroit Lions the Super Bowl.
Well, I think with their injury problems right now, I think that that might have beat him to it. There's no doubt that. They just lost another defensive lineman that they brought in when Hutchinson broke his leg. He's out for the year now.
They lost four players to season-ending injuries just this last weekend. I think that puts their mark up to 17 players they've lost for the year through the season. But does that cover up being down by 10 points with 12 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter and onside kicking the ball?
No.
What is
Egregious.
that? And I, for the life of me, cannot understand. And please, I wish somebody could tell me how. But all they talk about is how great of a coach he is and how the team just loves him and that he's one of the top 2 coaches in the NFL. And I'm thinking, but his game, he has no feel for the game.
No
feel for the game as far as momentum, swings, you name it. I don't care how when you're 10 points down with 12 minutes left to go in the game and you announce that you're going to onside kick and the onside kick has less than a 7% success rate, you're basically telling everybody with 12 minutes left to go in the game, it takes desperation, boys, because we have no shot.
He's finally taken some flack from a lot of sources about his. I mean, they go back to the San Francisco NFC Championship game, and then the week before, and now this fiasco, and at some point now that he's got so many injuries, he's going to have to take some more risk. And ain't no telling what he's going.
Yeah, but when you say risk,
well, there's risk, and then
what is a risk? I mean, a risk can be a all-out blitz or something like that. But
he's not looking good at all right now.
When you're on your own 21-yard line or whatever, and it's the game you got a lead. He had a 3-point lead 2 weeks ago or whatever when he went for it at his own 21, like in the third quarter, gave up the go-ahead touchdown shortly thereafter, and completely changed the momentum of that game for no reason.
His problem is, I get his angle. His angle is, I've got to show these players, and I've tried to create this culture in Detroit. So I've got to show these players that this is our culture and this is always going to be us, and I believe in them. I'll give you an example. I first started coaching football, and the head coach of the junior varsity, this is my first year, and this reminds me of Dan Campbell so much. It's fourth and 5. We're on our own 26-yard line. He calls timeout. And I look at the other assistant coach and I go, what is he doing? And the other assistant coach goes, I hope he's making sure they're all together so we can get this ball punted away and let our defense win this game for us. He comes off the field. He walks up. We're like, why did you call a timeout? He goes, watch this. He goes for it. We don't get it. 4th and 5 on our side of the field. They score a touchdown and end up winning the game. I said, what in the hell were you thinking? He goes, I went out in huddle and said, can you get me 5 yards? And I think this is where Dan Campbell is like, he looks at him and says, can you get me 5 yards? What do you think the player's going to say? No, coach, I believe the smartest thing to do here is punt the ball. No high school kid's going to say that. And no.
Well, if you got a player that says that, then you need to punt the damn ball.
Right, but what I'm saying is, as a coach, if you look at your players and go, can you get me those yards? What do you think they're going to say? You cannot coach like you are a player. You just can't do it because the players are competitors. They are in it to win it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. They're a bunch of alphas. And
they ain't scared. They ain't scared. No. But at some point, you're the head coach. You're supposed to come in with reason, with sense.
Yes, I've used this analogy since I started coaching baseball 27 years ago. I've had catchers tell me, Coach, I think I can call the pitches. I said, you know what? I have no doubt you could call the pitches right now. Do you know why you don't call the pitches? Because you're a competitor. You're sitting there thinking how we're going to blow this guy away, and you're calling for a fastball. Well, guess what? I'm the coach sitting back. I'm not a competitor. My mind says, no, we need to throw a changeup in the dirt. Like, because the competitor says we're going to blow him away. Like, give me, that is why a coach is so important. They are making decisions under fire that matter. You don't, if the coaches didn't matter, you just have, however many players and they just make their own decisions together. But the reason the coaches are there is because they're supposed to keep the level head. They're not on the field banging it up like the players are. Again, guys, it's 4th and 5. Can you get me that first down? No, coach. I believe the smartest thing to do would be to punt here. Where is the kicker for us to come out? I mean, they're not going to say that.
But he contradicted himself. And how did he do that? When they go for it on 4th down, and so when he onside kicks it with 12 minutes left to go. And why do we do that? Because that's what we do. That's the kind of coach. That's what I love about him as a coach. That's what we do. He's a go-getter. He takes the chances. We love that about him. Okay. So that was at the 12-minute mark. At the 7-minute mark of the 4th quarter, they were kicking the ball off again, and they were down 10, just like they were at the 12-minute mark when they were down 10. So they onside kick at the 12-minute mark, same situation with even less time to go in the game at the 7-minute mark, and he kicks off deep. Yeah. So what did you just tell your team? That, I screwed up the first time I did it. This time I'm kicking it deep. I learned my lesson. My thought process on him is,
what I mean, it's just so tough for me. Like, I get when fans, like, even as Bears fans, it'd be 4th and 1, and we're thinking to ourselves, man, we got to go for it. When the punt team comes out, you're like, oh my God. So I get when you make those situations and your team gets you, you're like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But you also have to look at a situation that Dan Campbell in the San Francisco game, they should have won that game.
Oh, he passed them at least 2 field goals that would put it back up above a 2-score game. And
so that kick at 12 minutes, that onside kick at 12 minutes, how quickly did Buffalo score? Wasn't it like 3 plays, 4 plays, something like that?
Onside kick?
Yeah.
Hell, he almost ran it all the way back.
They returned it to the 3 and scored on the very next play.
It was very next play. I couldn't remember how many plays.
He almost ran it all the way back.
He'd feel it on the hop, but I couldn't remember if he got to the 20 or he got inside the 10.
And then they threw a pass in the end zone for the touchdown.
So in the course of about a minute, you made a decision to onside kick, and within a minute, you put your team down by 17.
So now your offense, who just drove the field and put the ball in the end zone, feeling good about themselves, coming off to get a drink of water, all of a sudden they get thrown right back out on the field as if that last drive didn't even matter, and they're in the same situation. And I'm telling you, say what you want, but there's going to come a time where he's going to start losing the locker room. You can go for it and you can make arguments, but when it starts getting egregious, where it doesn't make sense, and you look at that Buffalo game, they lost that game by 6 points, and you can point to that very one play was worth 7. Now, granted, the ball bounces different.
Right.
If you don't, I mean, the whole game finishes different. I get it. But when you lose by less than a score, there's so many plays you can look at and say, if only we'd have done this. And you can't tell me that an onside kick with 12 minutes left in the 4th quarter wouldn't have been at the top of the list.
If Detroit is a Super Bowl team, all they don't need a tough guy. The problem is, I think Campbell himself just gets in that, I got to be the tough guy, and he's, I mean, he looks like a man eater still at his age, but I mean, Detroit doesn't need a tough guy right now. Do you know what Detroit needs? They need an adult behind the headset.
Well,
they need an adult.
Well, and like they said, you take chances like that when you're the hunter.
Yeah.
You're the team that's trying to ascend. You're trying to get to the top of the mountain. You're trying to beat those teams. And so you take chances to try and beat the teams that you're not supposed to beat.
When you're establishing
to be at the top of the hill.
Yes.
But Detroit is at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
They don't need to take chances anymore. They need to play good football, sound football, make the other teams take the chances.
Yeah. If you look at Detroit, Brett, if I ask you this question, do you believe that Dan Campbell has established a culture in Detroit?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that he has, at least for now, that he has the locker room?
Right now, but I think it's teetering.
Yes. Okay. But I mean, and before before that, I mean, I would say at the start of this year, he had the locker room. Do you think that, I mean, his coaches, the coaches probably behind closed doors are thinking in their minds, God, why the hell did we do that? But I still think the coaches are on board. Then
they're probably a little concerned too, because
but
it's becoming a habit, and it's happening quite frequently to where
But as Ed said, he's clearly already done those things, and somebody might say that the Detroit Lions fan that just loves it. That's part of the culture he built. That's part of his mantra. That's part. Listen, okay, fine, be comfortable with it. I don't want to see one single page that when he cost you the game. Last year they gave him a pass because I don't think one single Detroit Lion fan thought they were happy with the NFC Championship game. So they were going to give him a pass, and they weren't going to dissect it near as much as we did when it came to the San Francisco game. What if he does it again? I know they've got injuries, so they have a built-in excuse now. Well, yeah, we had injuries and Montgomery's out and half our defense, Hutchinson, but I still believe Detroit is good enough to get it done. And the fact that if he believed Detroit was good enough, how can, with 12 minutes left in a quarter, can Dan Campbell say, with the way Detroit's offense has been at times this year, that 10 points is too much to overcome? I'm going to declare an onside kick and take a 7% chance that it works. What?
Only down 10.
Only down 10. It wasn't like it was 21. It wasn't like it was 18. It was 10 points. And Detroit's offense has proven that 10 points, man, they can score in bunches. What goes through his mind? I mean, even the special teams coach had to go, huh?
And not only that, but what about the players? How long do they see the coach doing that? Well, look at the defense for Detroit. Clearly they were struggling.
Right.
What message does that send to your defense when they know our coach don't even have enough faith in us that he's doing an onside kick with 12 minutes left to go in the game because he doesn't think we can stop him?
Correct.
So anyway, we'll get off that horse because we got plenty of other topics. So what's next we got?
Let's go right here. We've talked about this in the past, but there has been some developments. And Brett, I'll give this one to you. Do you believe, and Rodgers had his first 300-yard passing game a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Devontae Adams last week, it looked like the old Rodgers to Devontae Adams. He had, I think, two touchdown catches and over 100 yards. Is Rodgers having a resurgence, and will he be back with the New York Jets?
I think he'll be back with the Jets. But no, one thing we've learned with the injury him and Kirk Cousins has had at their age, they'll never be the same, and they're shells of themselves. And no, I think what you're seeing out of Aaron Rodgers is who he is now. You can have a good game here or there, but he might come back for another year. But the Aaron Rodgers of half a dozen years ago, that guy's dead and gone.
I think I think there's a shortage of good quarterbacks in the NFL. There's going to be several teams that are going to be looking for quarterbacks that I think if the Jets were to go out and look for somebody, they would have trouble finding anybody that they would be able to say is better than Aaron Rodgers. So I think Aaron Rodgers will be back next year. I think he's going to play another season with Adams. But
they have to. I think they have to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they've painted themselves in a corner. I mean, here's the deal. I don't worry about this for Minnesota because obviously they're not my team. But if I'm just looking at it from a neutral side, I worry about Minnesota because, I mean, there's going to be teams that are willing to give Sam Darnold more money than I think Minnesota is going to be willing to give them. Would you agree, Ed?
I absolutely agree. That's why I'm saying, at the very least, I say franchise tag him. Because even if you franchise tag him, you can franchise tag him. Well, number one, he can be an insurance policy if you want to keep him. But ultimately, if you know you're not going to be able to keep him, at least if you franchise tag him, there's going to be another team out there that will offer a trade. So you're at least getting something for him, whatever that is.
Because
franchise tag, there is it takes a certain amount for a franchise tag, right? I mean, you can't just say we'll trade you for a 7th round pick, not as a franchise
right?
tag.
No, the
I
thing
thought wasn't it an automatic 1st round?
Can't remember.
I don't know if it's a 1st round or a 2nd round.
Tag a player, then it takes a 1st rounder to get him out, to be able to trade for him. Anyway, regardless, I think you're looking at Minnesota franchise tagging Darnold. I just can't see him just walking away.
Well, and that's the biggest thing is when you look around the league, a lot of the have and have-nots, it starts with the quarterback position. It really does.
Well, it totally dictates the rest of your team. So that's probably all the time we need to give Sir Rogers. So
yeah, I don't really want to talk about him anyway.
We've talked a lot of Jets this year. So.
Yes. Next one. What are you doing, KC, with Mahomes again heading in with a high ankle sprain? How does Kansas City handle this one?
Well, you gotta think if he's just damned to be. I mean, is this the 3rd year in a row he's had a high ankle sprain?
Well, I think they announced yesterday, and I didn't verify it, that he was a full go in practice yesterday. Now, I don't know. I don't know all the specifics on that.
But
he's week to week, correct? Is
that's the rumor.
The official stance is week to week.
Well, the thing is you could rest him this game, but what are you really gaining because they play again on Wednesday? So even if you rest him this weekend, you're giving him like another 3 days, which on a high ankle sprain isn't really that much.
No.
So it was terrible timing for Kansas City.
So you got 3 games in 11 days.
Given the struggle they've had on offense already.
Yeah, and if you want the number 1 seed, they got to win to ensure that they get the number 1 seed. They got to win 2 of their next 3 games. I think that if he can go this weekend, they'll play him, because if they take out Houston and they get one of those 2 wins that they need, then I think they'll roll the dice and give him some time to rest, because now you're talking about Wednesday game, but then a next Sunday game, but then after that, if they have the number 1 seed, they'll get a bye week. So technically, if they can get by this game against Houston and get a win, they could potentially put them on the shelf for 3 weeks.
What do they need? Just 1 out of the last 3?
They need 2 to guarantee, but that's only if Buffalo
wins out.
Right. Yeah. Now, see, Buffalo's got the tiebreaker, obviously, for because of beating them and Orchard Park.
Right. I think we can all agree Patrick Mahomes is not having a very good year compared to Patrick Mahomes' numbers. I mean, it's a very I don't know what the word would be, very clandestine year for him.
Well, one thing I go back to, and I know we talked about this at the very beginning of the season. Matter of fact, before the season kicked off, about how heavy he came in camp and how out of shape he was. And he meant, people were mentioning it. And then when he bulldozed a guy to goal line a few weeks ago, I think a Rams player, and mentioned said, well, I've got some weight on me now.
Right.
He's looked a little out of shape all year.
He just doesn't look the same.
No.
I'm not saying it's because he's out of shape or whatever, but
just a little heavy.
Yeah, and the throws, his precision, the things that you used to expect from Patrick Mahomes just have not been as sharp, have not been as crisp. His interceptions are up. He's thrown almost twice as many, I think, interceptions this year as he did last year, or the year before. There's just something off about him.
And Buffalo plays New England, Jets, and New England again to finish the season off.
Ooh.
So Buffalo could easily go 3-0 on that stretch, I would think. So that's why they're saying Kansas City, with Buffalo's win over Kansas City in the bank, that Kansas City's got to win 2 of their last 3 to secure home field.
So if you're Andy Reid, what do you do, Ed? Do you leave him go Sunday?
If he can go on Sunday, I go ahead and I play him this weekend. And if they beat Texas, then let's see, they got their final 2 games are if they beat Texas, then they play Pittsburgh Steelers.
Ooh.
And the Denver Broncos. And
Denver
Broncos is that Mile High. So I tell you what,
they
got to have the game against Texas. They got to win that game.
Man, Kansas City has 3 teams with winning records left on their schedule, and Buffalo has 2 teams with 3 games with losing record.
And keep in mind, too, a few weeks ago, Denver outplayed Kansas City, and another one of those flukes at the end of the game gave Kansas City the win. They blocked a short field goal to win that one. That's not going to be an easy game for them at Mile High.
Can Kansas City keep the horseshoe luck up? I mean,
I just have a hard time thinking, okay, let's say they go in and they beat Houston. So now they got to win one of their last 2 games. I just don't see with a high ankle sprain how you play a whole game unless they're boat racing Houston and they take him out early. But if he has to play the whole game against Houston with a high ankle sprain, how you can turn around 4 days later and play another full game against the Steelers on a high ankle sprain.
Against that defense.
I was going to say, that's not the team you want him playing against. And D'Amico Ryans is a hell of a defensive coach for the Texans, and they've got a good pass rush. That could spell trouble for that ankle as well.
So my bet is they start home Mahomes against Houston. If they win against Houston, they sit him against Pittsburgh and roll the dice the final week against Denver.
They're almost going to have to. I mean, again, depending on the seriousness, they say, and this is another thing. Is it really as bad as they say it is? Or is it, is this?
I'm very familiar with high ankle sprains. Being a Bama fan, we had a couple guys that seemed like they got them continually, and a lot of those, man, are 3 to 5 weeks after a minor surgery required to. I can't remember the wrapping or the band that they used, but unfortunately, I'm familiar with it, and it can't be on the grade of the players I'm speaking of, or otherwise he I mean, even with a pain shot, I don't think he could really put a whole lot of weight on it and do anything with it.
Well, the minute I saw the replay, the first thing on my mouth was high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just tell that's
Yeah.
what I mean. And when they were helping him to the sideline, the first thing I thought of, he's in his mind going, "Not again."
Yes.
Yeah, you could read it on his face. Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought. It's just like, oh no, next quick one. I'll make this quick. We're just going to pass this around. Is Kirk Cousins done for good? He got benched in Atlanta. They're going to Michael Penix. They don't have anything to lose. They're 7-7. Could Kirk Cousins come out? Who do they play this week? Man, I just saw it too.
They're playing against the Giants or something, aren't they?
Yes, Giants. It's the Giants. Could Kirk Cousins come out and beat the Giants? Probably, but you're still in the same boat.
Right.
So, do you believe, one, this was a good move by Atlanta? And I'll start with you, Ed. Was this a good move by Atlanta? And if so, is Kirk Cousins done for good? And the third one is, should Kirk Cousins be put in jail for the amount of money he's made from the NFL for the actual return that the teams that have gotten
What
him?
did they say
he's
made now? He's made. Is it?
He's in the top 10 all-time earners in the NFL.
Oh, his agent, everybody ought to be picking up the phone calling his agent.
He's won like one playoff game or whatever.
Yeah.
He's won one in Washington and one in Minnesota, I believe.
Yeah, it's like two. I think it's 1-1. 2 playoff games in his storied career.
But here's what I see. Atlanta, I'm kind of surprised they didn't give him one more week.
But it's against the Giants.
To me, this is thrown in the towel. Because if you're playing the Giants and you get a win, you're still only one. I mean, you're only one game behind Tampa Bay.
And you hold the tiebreaker because you beat Tampa Bay twice.
Right.
He can't push off that foot. He has no arm strength right now.
So either they're seeing that he's really struggling, or we don't see the practice. Penix might be tearing it up in practice. They might be looking at him going, "Wow." And so, but here's the deal. Here's the future I see for Kirk Cousins. Everyone wants to say that this is it. He's done. You know what I see coming next year? Another Russell Wilson contract.
Yeah.
Atlanta's going to be on the rope for all that guaranteed money.
Yep.
And next year he's going to get his money because he gets like 60-some million this year. He gets 30-some million right away next year. And so after that, if they release him, which it sounds like is what they're going to do, they still got to pay his salary. So shoot, it's the same situation. There is so many teams out there that need a quarterback. You don't think there's not going to be a team out there that's going to bring Kirk Cousins in for league minimum and say he's better than anything we can find?
But the thing of it is, and if Brett's right, if he can't drive off of that back leg when he's throwing the football, I mean, does it matter? You know what I mean? Like, does it matter?
Well,
and I think
got to remember though,
because
too, he's still relatively young on a torn Achilles. They were talking about all the other athletes that are in all the other sports that get torn Achilles, that it takes as many as between 500 and 550 days to fully recover from a torn Achilles. And he's had, like they said, 312 days or something. So he's a little over half of what the normal recovery is for an athlete for a torn Achilles. And so next year, does he come back better prepared, better in shape to play?
Well, the kind of money he's getting paid, he'd be crazy. I mean, he's not going to retire. He's,
The tough part is, and maybe you could be onto something there, Ed, because, man, when I watch the Falcons play, when I watch him drop back, he is on an X. And if you are a defender, You have to just get to that X because he is not moving. He is dropping.
We talked about today.
What's that?
You know what they were talking about today on one of the sports talk shows I was listening to? They were talking about Brock Purdy being not retained by the 49ers because it's another one of those deals where they don't think he's worth the money to pay top dollar. That Shanahan would entertain either bringing in Darnold or bringing in a Kirk Cousins to see what he can get out of him.
Oh, my God. Listen, I do not understand. If you look at it, everybody talks about.
They were throwing numbers out there where Brock Purdy, they said, would be lucky if the 49ers give him between 35 to 45 million a year. And I'm like, how many quarterbacks are out there? Trevor Lawrence, Tua, all those guys that are making 55 million, 52 million a year. And they're actually talking Brock Purdy possibly not even getting to 45.
What I don't understand, and somebody needs to help this make sense to me. What does he have to do? How many playoff games has Trevor Lawrence won? One. How many playoff games go down the line of different quarterbacks? What does he have to do? Now this year, again, would Minnesota be anywhere near what they are right now, Ed? And I think you and I both agree, Sam Darnold's been amazing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, way more than either one of us expected. Where would Sam Darnold be if Jones was out and Akers was out, Jefferson was out, and Hawkinson spent 4 or 5 games out, and Addison spent 3 to 4 games out? Where would Minnesota be?
But see, there's the argument that they use against him because they're saying, look at the success Brock Purdy had when he had all of his weapons. But now that he doesn't have his weapons, they can't win because when they have to rely on him to carry the team, he can't do it.
But
I'm just telling you.
Yeah, no, I know. But here's my argument against that. Who are you comparing him to? You're comparing him to Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I don't know who has put him. I would not say Brock Purdy has earned being put into that category necessarily. But you sure in the hell cannot put him into the category of a nobody without a bunch of talent. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Somebody still has to deliver the ball. Somebody still has to do those things that a quarterback needs to do. And I can show you a whole plethora of guys that were drafted a hell of a lot higher than him that have not shown the ability to do that. But why do we look at Sam Darnold and say, man, what a resurgence year. He's doing a phenomenal job. And you never hear anybody say, well, I mean, let's face it. Sam Darnold has Addison, Hawkinson, Jefferson, Jones, and Akers in the backfield. I mean, he never had that at New York, and he never had that in Carolina. Why do we do that?
Well, you hear more about Kevin O'Connell being the reason why Sam Darnold's having success.
Okay, so why don't we just say the reason that Purdy's had success is because of Kyle Shanahan and leave it at that? Brock Purdy is talented. Is he Josh Allen? Hell no. But what is it about him that infuriates people so bad that they just, I wouldn't give him any money. I'd cut his ass. I don't get that. Go ahead and cut him. I'd take him on the Bears tomorrow. Go ahead, cut him. I'd take him.
So
easily.
Brett, you're the head coach. You're the general manager of San Francisco. And you guys, it's finally that time where you got to pay Brock Purdy. What kind of money you giving him, or are you walking away?
Well, as a GM with San Francisco, I'm looking at the total picture. Their window, unfortunately, because I was pulling for them to win a Super Bowl during this little run, and they just couldn't do it. Their window is closed. In my eyes, with injuries on both sides of the ball, yeah, some of the guys will be back, but they get some age on them. Debo is done.
He's half the player he used to be.
Yeah, Debo's done.
You can't even consider Debo.
Get some age on him. Bosa stays hurt. Honestly, if I'm the San Francisco GM, I'm doing a total rebuild. That's just me, and you can't do that by giving Purdy $40-50 million a year and not having any pieces around him, and he's just going to get the crap kicked out of him, and they're not going to be competing for a championship. I think they're unfortunately, and I might be wrong, their run is done. And it's not just Purdy; it's the whole team. If you want to keep him and pay him $40-50 million, fine, but you're going to have to scrap everybody else and do a total rebuild, and then it'll be 4 years before you're back in a position, or 3 years where you're back in a position where the Bears can be after this upcoming draft. Now, will they be? It depends. San Francisco's done, so yes, I'm a San Francisco GM. I'm starting from scratch, which means you're gonna have to let Shanahan walk. You're gonna have to let Purdy walk, and Debo, like you said, a shell of himself.
Well,
Purdy is fantastic when he's healthy. I mean, we can go on down the list.
Purdy won't walk. He has a year left on his contract.
No, unfortunately, I would not pay him. Would you, Eric? I mean, looking at the team as a whole, not the fact the boy ain't good or that he don't deserve it. You gonna spend all that money on one guy when he don't have what he needs on both sides of the ball?
It depends on the decision that they make as an organization.
Yeah.
If they decide on a total rebuild, then, I mean, if you're not sure that he can't be a dude,
right,
then you may have to do that.
Well, again, I think one reason that he doesn't get the respect he deserves now, quarterback position is different than when we grew up, gentlemen. There's always been, whether it's African American or Caucasian, there's always been some mobile quarterbacks in the league. So let's just get that out of the way. But now, that is the thing. Hey, this dude better be damned the next Tom Brady if he ain't got legs. Right. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
No matter what the quarterback looks like. And that's the problem with Purdy. He's not standing in concrete, but he's not a Baker Mayfield or some of these other guys. And that's what these scouts and what these GMs are looking for now. And he don't have that extra legs to help him out with a depleted roster, which and it showed this season. I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback, but he doesn't have the weapons right now that Darnold has.
Right.
You put Darnold on the same team in San Francisco right now, Darnold's got a problem.
Right.
So, but it's me. If I'm the GM of San Francisco, unfortunately, their window is closed, and I would start fresh. I'd start doing some trades and start stacking up draft picks, and in 3 years start over. But unfortunately, you're not going to have a guy like Shanahan hang around for a total rebuild.
But does he look at the current draft prospect at quarterback and say, "Ooh, I don't know if I can do that."
They might look for a Darnold or a. Depends on how much they would have to pay Purdy to stay, and just look. If you can make money elsewhere, Chief, go on. But unfortunately, for the for the foreseeable future, we're not going to be competing for a championship. We're overhauling the roster.
Right.
And God, I'd love, grew up around football. I'd love to be a GM, but that has got to be a very tough position to be in. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we've seen it with the Bears religiously, but thankfully, thank goodness, talent-wise, we're trending. But are they going, for the other hires that Poles has made, are they going to get rid of Poles? I feel like with what he's done with the roster, we need to give him another draft. But, I know we're not talking about the Bears, but.
Right.
I want to hit one more real quick, and then we got to get to our picks. I was watching the game Monday night, and when I say this, is it time to set Caleb Williams down for his own sake? I'm not saying that I don't think he is capable of being a damn good quarterback in the league, because I think he does. But I think he has been coached so poorly that third and fourth quarter Monday night, he would drop back, he would do a few progressions, and then you would see his eyes go down, and he was doing nothing more than running away from the lineman. I mean, it was like he wasn't even looking downfield anymore. He just started doing one of those. Remember back in the day when we were on the playground and you all was in a group and you played smear the,
Right.
There were plays where he just ran around in the pocket and left the pocket and ran around. He was jumping like Mario when there wasn't even anybody, shooting at his legs. I just think that he is so.
I got two names for you, Ed. Jalen Hurts and Jalen Milroe. I went through that with back-to-back quarterbacks here at Alabama, and it's a bad habit when guys have legs and they know they've got legs, that they've got some. That's why Patrick Mahomes is so fantastic, because he can do all that and still he's going through his progression, scanning, and it's very tough to do. Me and you've mentioned this. Caleb can pretty much, what I call him, is a stop sign guy. Means he walk out his front door and the closest stop sign, he can drill that from his front step. Caleb is very accurate. He's lacking confidence right now because he's getting the total crap beat out of him.
The one play where
the coaching's horrible. He's not throwing it to people. He's looking off open people.
He left the pocket. He left the pocket. He scrambled around. And there was the play where he went to throw it and he left both his feet and he threw it in the opposite far corner of the end zone.
Yeah.
But he totally got his clock cleaned after he threw the ball. And then they showed him on the sideline laying down on the bench and stuff, because you could tell he was in pain. And it's like, at that point, I'm saying to myself, they're doing him such an injustice. They should just take him out of the game.
Listen, at the beginning of the year, Eberflus should have been fired prior to this season.
Oh, yeah.
They should have hired Jim Harbaugh. We know this. The problem is, for whatever reason, when it comes to these types of decisions, the Bears are always a step behind, period. They when you draft, to me, you're drafting a quarterback. Okay, they knew they were. They didn't even talk to Jaden Daniels because they knew they were drafting Caleb Williams. Okay, fine. Fired Eberflus's ass. Get rid of him. Allow that new coach to come in here and get a fresh start with him. It should have been Jim Harbaugh, but obviously we know how that worked out. Get him in here. Let Caleb start because you're going to give Jim Harbaugh 4 years, 5 years, whatever anyway. So that's enough time for him to develop with the coach. But every single one, Mitch Trubisky, first year coach gets fired. Now he's looking at a whole nother system. Justin Fields, first year coach gets fired. Now he's looking at a whole nother system. Caleb Williams, first year coach, doesn't even make it through the season. Now he's looking at a whole nother system. I mean, Chicago just
Well,
They
Mitch
can't-
should have never been drafted anyways. He was who we thought he was. And I don't know how in the hell that GM saw something different. It
No.
traded up to get him, and nobody was looking at him.
No, and that's exactly right. And who we overlooked for him is just crazy.
Patrick Mahomes.
But here's the deal: only the Bears could have screwed up Patrick Mahomes, bud, and we would have done it.
Oh, and we did it fantastically.
Patrick Mahomes would be flipping burgers if he'd went to the Bears.
Time to pet the dog because get into our picks.
I gained one.
Yours truly is still top dog for another week, so we will see.
If you guys would be Christian and just wash my Kansas City and Jets pick, I'd be right up there with y'all, but y'all just won't do it. Just two teams.
Just give me the two teams.
So let's get into the picks.
I guarantee you, I'm at probably a 10% winning percentage with Kansas City and the Jets this year.
I got to tell you, we don't pick easy games, and this week is a perfect example because there's about 4 or 5 of these that I don't feel real good about.
No.
So here's your guys' chance to make some hay.
Well, everybody but you took Tennessee. That's going to be interesting.
First game tomorrow night. 9-5 Denver's going to LA to play the Chargers at 8-6. LA is a 3-point favorite on Thursday night primetime video. I'm taking the LA Chargers.
I've got the Chargers.
The Chargers.
That's a clean sweep because Chad's got the Chargers as well.
Henry has the Chargers.
If Nick's had another year under him, I would take Denver. But Harbaugh's a smart coach, and going up against a rookie like that, he'll have a plan.
I was surprised. I thought we'd see some Denver there.
Henry Chargers, Mike Chargers. Clean sweep.
Next game, we got Houston coming in to Arrowhead. 9-5 Houston, 13-1 Kansas City. Kansas City was 2.5-point underdogs until they announced that Patrick Mahomes was playing. They went from a 2.5-point underdog to a 3-point favorite. And who you taking, Brett?
Well, you know, whoever I take in the Kansas City game, you just need to go the opposite, and you'll be in good shape. So that's why you're making me go first. I think we can all agree, even, Chad is not with us tonight. Texans have been awful disappointing this season. Awful disappointing. This would be a huge win for the Texans, just for momentum and mindset and all that. But again, looking at Kansas City's future schedule, they've got to have this game or they'll be going to Buffalo again, and they don't want to do that. Give me Kansas City in a close one.
Chad took Kansas City, and I got Kansas City. So
as do I.
So all that chirping, and it was a clean sweep.
Yeah.
Next game, Pittsburgh. 10-4, kind of on a little slide here. Heads into Baltimore, where they haven't had much success. Baltimore is 9-5. They're 6.5-point favorites over Pittsburgh. Saturday game, 3:30.
Who's got the ticker?
I do. I was behind.
Wow, I'm surprised by the line.
I'm taking Baltimore. They're going to break it.
I got Baltimore as well. Chad, however, is taking Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I don't see this being a 7-point spread, but since we're just picking the winner, I'm going Baltimore by a field goal.
Next game, we got the LA Rams, 3-point favorites at 8-6, heading to New York cross country to play the New York Aaron Rodgers, who are 4-10. This was one of those games that I looked at, thinking, cross country. But at the end, I went with the Rams.
That's where I'm going. I had a feeling you were going to go there.
Yeah, Rams. I mean, but I picked the Jacks 6 weeks in a row, and they didn't win a game. So
right.
Chad took the Rams as well, so that's a sweep. Should have the comment line going here. Let's see. Oh, yes. Henry, Mike both took the Rams. Chad wasn't alone at the last pick with Pittsburgh, being the only Pittsburgh pick, because Mike and Henry both went with him with Pittsburgh as well. So next game we got Philadelphia 12-2, 3.5-point favorites going to Washington to play the 9-5 Redskins.
I got Philly. Just can't see Washington win the game.
Chad's got Philly. Who you got, Brett?
give me the Eagles.
That's a clean sweep as well.
For as tough a games, we're kind of falling on the same side here.
Yeah, I know.
Next game, we got your 12-2 Minnesota Vikings. 3-point favorites heading into Seattle. So I was a betting man. I would say Geno Smith's going to play. The line moved a little bit here in Seattle's favor the last day, so I take it that they must think Geno's going to be able to play. But I am still taking Minnesota.
So am I.
Yep, give me the Vikings. Seattle has been dreadful at home this year, and they let so many Packers fans in that stadium last week. That the whole thing was surprising. Seattle was really never even in that game.
I'm surprised it's only 3 points, to be honest with you.
Henry's taking Minnesota, but Mike is taking the underdog, Seattle.
Chad take Minnesota as well?
Chad took Minnesota, yes. Here's a game that I just ended up flipping a coin because I have no idea. San Francisco 6-8 at Miami. That's 6-8. San Francisco started out, I think, 2.5-point favorites on Monday, and it's flipped completely over to Miami as 1.5-point favorites. So I don't know what's caused the line to move like it has. Chad took Miami, but I am taking San Francisco.
I'm taking the Fighting Tuas.
I got to take Miami. I've lost all faith in San Francisco. Their injuries have just been seems like insurmountable.
Yeah.
Just insurmountable.
So the final game of the week, 8-6 Tampa, who is on a hot streak, going to Dallas, where Dallas has made kind of a late season push. I think they've won 3 of their last 4. They're 6-8. It's a Sunday night game. I am taking the Tampa Bay Bucks to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, I am too.
Yep.
And Chad took Tampa as well.
Man.
Did we have any difference of opinion?
Just the San Francisco-Miami game.
Oh.
That was the 1.5
Pittsburgh,
points.
Baltimore, Chad, there was a little bit. Chad took Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And then
and they're all 3-point.
College, the only real difference was I took Ohio State and you guys all took Tennessee.
Right.
It's a clean sweep for Tampa Bay on the comment line. Mike Henry all both took the Bucks.
Yeah. I don't see I don't see Dallas winning. I don't
So
want
again,
Dallas to
just
win.
want to let everybody know that for the next 2 weeks now, we're going to be on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. With Christmas and New Year's both being on a Wednesday, we're going to slide our show to Saturday morning just for those 2 weeks. And then after that, we'll be back to our normal Wednesday schedule.
Yep, the holidays kind of threw us off here a little bit. We didn't pay attention to it till late.
Want to thank all the pages out there that are allowing us to post our show. A lot of UFL stations, so we really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Michigan, Arlington, San Antonio, Birmingham, Memphis, DC, all of them are letting us post our show on their pages. So really appreciate that. Brett's got some big pages that he admins that we post to every week. Got to thank them all. We've got a lot of pages out there that allow us to get time. We appreciate it.
Yep, helping us grow. Everybody, make sure to check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. You'll get a notification every time we do a show, and you go back and watch it later. It's free to subscribe.
With that said, another week coming to an end. So enjoy the football this weekend. College football playoffs kicking off. The NFL decided they wanted to compete a little bit with college football, so that'll be interesting on Saturday. There'll be some pro games going on at the same time. So check out We're Everything Football. So enjoy whatever game trips your trigger. As for me, I'm going to be watching college football
At Christmas.
and enjoying got a little Christmas going on. I'm going to be spending the day with Eric.
God, you're lucky.
Maybe
Man, you're lucky.
Maybe we're even going to do a few bits. Maybe we'll do a few quick takes. Jump in and do some live beats. Maybe Brett will jump on and do a couple himself and spend Saturday with the bottom line until a week from Saturday. Watch football and enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you again next week.
And that's the bottom line.